Hey everyone, welcome to the re-recording of today's class for week 1. So I'm just going to highlight some of the essentials. So first off, we're going to download this zip file. So let me just save that. And I'm just going to make a new folder on my desktop. I'll call it comp 1073 and week 1B. Since this is the second version, and in there I'll save this zip file. There it is. And once we're in there, I'm going to unzip it. And now you can feel free to delete this Mac OS X folder, which is a leftover from Scott's laptop. And so we're just dealing with this lesson file start. Also feel free to delete this DS store. So let's start with the index.html. If I were to open that, that's what the page looks like. And let's open that also in Visual Studio Code. By the way, in class today when I asked you to look for prettify, it wasn't prettifier, it was actually prettier. So prettier is the extension I'd like for you to install. Once you do install it, you have to type this out in your settings, but just make sure this says true instead of false. So I do have it installed, and to type this out in your settings, what you do is say Control-Shift-P and look for settings, and go ahead and open user settings, and you're going to get this JSON file, and whatever the last entry is, you're just going to copy this line here, except instead of false it's going to be true. So copy, Control-C, come here, put a comma at the end of the last entry and paste in that, and then change the false to true. That will allow you to, whenever you say Control-S to save, that will format your code for you. Now I already have this up here, so I'm just going to remove that. Okay, so on to unzipped file. Let's go into, wait, I think I'm in the wrong folder here. There we go. There, so I'm going to work with the index.html file for now. I'm going to start with step 2. So get the EM element and store it as a variable. So as we can see here, here's the markup tag. We want to grab this element, which is already rendered in the browser. Okay, so again, one of the questions that was asked today is why do we do this document.querySelector? It's because the browser has already rendered this HTML markup, and when the browser internalizes it, it stores it as a tree, and one way to access that tree is to use the document.querySelector. So that's what we're doing here. So we're going to store this element, we can call it whatever we want. I said em equals document.querySelector, and because this is the only em element, just like in CSS, right? We can target that. We can target things just by the element name. So I'm just doing that here, just like CSS. But just as a reminder, you can also, if you wanted to, you can say if there was a class here with a class name of whatever, you could also target it here with dot whatever. But another way is if there was an ID of whatever, then here it would be query selector hashtag whatever. Okay, so again, this is just to target the element that we want. Okay, so for now we'll just change it back. So now that we have that, we can do something with it. So we're going to add a click event listener. So we're going to say em.add event listener, click, and make sure there's a comma there after the click. And then here we can say do something, some kind of function. So now we're going to create that function here for step 4. We can say function do something, and oh yeah, this squiggly bracket was there before, so I'll just make use of that. And let's just test this out by console logging some kind of error or some kind of message. Inside do something. Okay, so let's check this out. So let's refresh, and let's get the console by saying Control-Shift-J, and click on the EM element, and you can see inside the console that it is indeed working. So now that we have confidence that it's working, we can go ahead and display a prompt asking for an input. So we can say var input equals prompt. If I just did that by itself, that would work. See, let's try that out. Refresh, click, there it is. But if you wanted a message there, you could say something here, like enter some string, whatever. And then if I cancel this and then refresh, then click here, you should see enter some string there. And now, right now, if I type in something, it's not going to respond. It's not going to do anything because we haven't coded that. So now let's go ahead and grab whatever was typed and put it in the EM element. So here is what we want, and we want to build a new string. We could say var new string, for example, equals, we could say something like prof, and then concatenate that with the input. Okay, and then we want to change the text inside the EM element. So since we already have the EM element up here, we have access to that. We can say em.textContent equals new string, and that should work. So let's save that. Let's refresh. Let's click on the EM element. It's giving me something. So let me put my name, okay, and notice it now says Professor Albert. So that's working. And that's basically what we did today for the first half of class. The step 5 here is just to show you what bad practice looks like. So if we didn't have this add event listener, if I commented that out, so the click event doesn't work anymore, right? If I were to refresh, click, nothing happens. What you could do, and what you might see other web pages have, is they might have something like this inside the HTML section. They may have an on click do something. So that would work, but that's considered bad practice, so don't do it. So don't do this inline kind of JavaScript. Okay, so let me take that out and uncomment this, so we're back to the normal. And then the final step 6 is move the above JavaScript into an external file. So if I were to create a new file here, so if I click this on this and call it, let's say, let's index.js, and inside here I'm going to copy and paste my code, which is basically this. You want to be careful. You don't want to copy and paste the script tags, just the code itself. Alright, so I'm just going to copy that and paste it in there. That's all I need. Everything else I can just delete. Right. And we discussed in class that one of the best places to put the script tag is at the bottom after the majority of HTML is done parsing. The other possibility is to move that script up in the head, but make sure you have something here called defer. Okay, so either way, you're going to refer to the file that you have. So you could have this, or if this was at the bottom, you could have that without the defer. Okay, so that should work. Let me refresh just to test that out. Click, and then OK, and it should still work. All right, so that's basically the first half of class. The next video will be the second half of class for Guess HTML.